It's time for another Out and About with Jamie Grout podcast, and this time we speak to the new pastor at the First United Methodist Church. That's a big church in downtown Newton. It's Leann Robine, who came here from the hometown of Johnny Carson's birthplace, Corning, Iowa. We'll be chatting with her, getting to know you kind of session in just a couple of moments. But first, a word from our sponsors, including Newton Clinic. And back to school season is closer than it feels. Sports physicals, child exams, and annual checkups fill up early in August. And nobody wants to be scrambling the week before school starts. A 5-minute call now saves a lot of stress later. Parents, are you already scheduled? Well, you better get that done. You got to get that taken care of. Let the folks at Newton Clinic know. Book an appointment right now or give them a call at 641-792-2112, or you can go to their Facebook page and sign up online, or go to their website, www.newtonclinic.com. Again, August books up fast, so don't wait. Get that appointment all set up for the start of the school year. And, of course, right after the Iowa State Fair is over with, man, that means back to school already. Another fine sponsor, Junie B's Food Truck. You can find it right there on First Avenue, right next to Casey's. And you'll also be able to find them at the Jasper County Fair. And the Out and About with Jamie Grout podcast will have reports from this year's Jasper County Fair. We will have Stacy Wilson from the Iowa State Extension Service. She's the youth coordinator. She'll have reports on all those 4-H and FFA projects that those youngsters are doing. But Junie B's will be right there on the Jasper County Fairgrounds with the food truck. And want to let you know about the hours this week for Junie B's. If you're listening on Tuesday, they'll be there from 11 till 2, Wednesday of this week, 11 till 2, and Thursday of this week from 11 till 2. They have great food at Junie B's Eats and Treats. You'll see the food truck again right there on First Avenue in Newton. Another fine sponsor, Ryan's Tire and Auto on First Avenue in Newton. And if you look at their Facebook page, Ryan says one of the best parts of owning this business is having the opportunity to give back to the community that has supported them in the past few years. Recently, he says he was honored to make a donation to Ride for Time with Friends of Mine, a local organization that hosts events to help fund mammograms for individuals who can't afford them. He says every time you choose Ryan's Tire and Auto, you're doing more than keeping your vehicle on the road. You're helping them support organizations and programs and make a real difference right here in our community. He says, thank you for trusting us with your vehicles and for making donations like this possible. Your support allows them to give back to those organizations that count in the community. He says he's truly thankful from the folks at Ryan's Tire and Auto on First Avenue in Newton. Another fine sponsor is Wesley Life Park Center. You want to stop on in and find out what it's all about at Wesley Life Park Center. Lisa Zylstra and the crew there do a great job. And as I've said so many times before, my sister lived the last few years of her life at Wesley Life Park Center, going into assisted living and then transitioning into the healthcare center. She couldn't have had any better care. And you can pursue your joy at Park Center by offering living options across a continuum. Park Center provides vital, enriching environments for everyone, a community for healthy living focused on holistic health and well-being. Their programming enhances emotional, intellectual, and spiritual wellness and enables you to live a life that's healthier in every way. Park Center is at home in Newton, with many residents and team members having lived in their lives. To learn more about Park Center's different levels of living and to find the lifestyle that's right for you, contact Lisa Zylstra at 641-791-5000. Again, Lisa Zylstra, 641-791-5000 at Park Center. Another fine sponsor, Advantage Credit Union.
Let us pay you for checking with us. Hi, this is Leslie with Advantage Credit Union, inviting you to take advantage of Cha-Ching Rewards Checking. Earn 3% APY on balances up to $10,000. That's up to $25 per month that ACU pays you. No minimum balance, no monthly fees. Simply do the things you're already doing and cash in at the credit union. Apply online at acuiowa.org or visit us in downtown Newton.
APY is annual percentage yield. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by the NCUA.
It's time for an Out and About with Jamie Me Grout podcast, and my podcast interview guest today is Leann Robine, who is the new pastor at the First United Methodist Church in Newton. Leann, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I'm looking forward to finding out all about you here today, and you've agreed to be my guest at the Rotary Club meeting on Tuesday, so I'm looking forward to introducing you to the folks there and to the community. What have you been here, 2 weeks now?
Yep, just a bit. Well, a little over a month. I had a month of settling in.
Okay.
But have been in the pulpit for 2 weeks, yes.
What made you decide you wanted to get into the ministry?
Oh, gosh. So I never thought that I would be, to be honest. I actually taught preschool for several years. My bachelor's degree, so my undergrad, and I even have a master's degree in early childhood education. So that was always my goal, was to just teach and then eventually teach teachers how to teach. Was always my goal.
Okay.
But it was, oh goodness, 2016, I believe, is when I really started to kind of feel that nudge at like maybe God was calling me beyond what I had always known. And I ignored it and tried to ignore it and tried to ignore it. I even filled in one Sunday at my home church for our pastor, and someone who had known me since the day I was born, one of the little old ladies at church, she stopped me after church and she said, "It won't be long, and we'll be calling you Pastor Leann." And I laughed and said, "Oh, I don't know about that." And I remember getting into my car and, pointing up at heaven and saying, "You can't make me do it, God. I'm not going to do it." And then not even 2 months later, I was sitting with a good mentor of mine and a good friend, and I just said, "I think God is asking me to move into church ministry. I think that's where I'm meant to be." And she said, "I think that's where you've meant to be too, and I just didn't know how to tell you that."
Do you feel like the Lord has a plan for all of us?
I do. I do. I think God sets us on a path, and of course we always have a choice whether or not we follow it or not. But I believe that God continues to nudge us through other people, through experiences, through all sorts of ways to lead us where we need to be.
Yeah.
And it's up to us whether or not we choose to stick our feet in the mud and refuse to move, or say, "Okay, God, let's see where this leads."
Well, and I told you my story before we started this, and so I've been definitely nudged.
Yeah.
We both have.
Yes.
So tell us where you're from. Let's backtrack a little bit about your history, your family, where you're raised, and you told us about your education and how you started out teaching, that kind of thing. But give us your background and all that kind of stuff.
So I grew up in Council Bluffs, Iowa, born and raised. Spent most of my life there, Council Bluffs, Omaha area.
So that's how you knew where my family, my mom was from, with Missouri Valley, because it's real close to there, way over in western Iowa.
Yes, I'm a Southwest Iowa girl
Sure.
through and through. So born and raised there. I grew up in the United Methodist Church. So born and raised that way as well. Spent time at my grandma's United Methodist Church, as well as the one that was in our neighborhood that I grew up in. My mom always says we grew up in the pews. I think there's probably even coloring marks left on one of those pews from when I was little and thought I could color on everything. Everything was my piece of paper. Yep. So grew up there. I have, siblings, 3 older brothers, my mom and my dad. So we grew up in the church. I am the only of my siblings who remained in the United Methodist Church. My other siblings went to non-denominational churches. That's where they felt that they were experiencing God the most. And I have always felt God in the United Methodist Church, and so have stuck there. As I grew older, after I graduated college and was teaching, my father actually experienced a call into ministry.
No kidding.
Yeah, as a second career pastor.
With the Methodist Church?
With the Methodist Church.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was what we would refer to as a licensed local pastor.
Okay.
So my dad did not go to seminary, so didn't become ordained. He had his license in the church. And so he started preaching, and that's kind of what led me into further leadership in our home church, because I stepped into his shoes, so to speak. And then eventually I started to feel that same call. And after I spoke with my good mentor and friend, I was talking to my dad, and he said, "Well, I knew it was coming, but I knew you wouldn't listen to me if I said anything
wow.
to you."
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it was an incredible way that God just aligned all the people in my life who were like, well, we knew this was coming, and we were just here to hold you when you finally responded and said yes. So then I chose to, things were not going well at the child care center setting I was working in, and so we parted ways, and I entered into part-time pastoral ministry and then chose to seek ordination. So I went to seminary. I attended online through ILIF Seminary in Denver, and met some incredible life-changing friends that way who have supported me through this journey. And then I became officially ordained in 2024 in the United Methodist Church.
Why the Methodist Church? I know you were born and raised through the Methodist Church, child of the pews, as you say, and all that. I mean, you could have gone Presbyterian. There's a lot of ways you could go.
Right.
Why this church? Why Methodist?
So John Wesley, who is one of the founders of the Methodist movement, along with his brother Charles, I have always been so drawn to the way that he would speak about God's grace, as this thing that has surrounded us from the moment that we were born, before the moment we would even realize that we had God present in our life, and how it just follows us throughout our entire life. And John Wesley will talk about how we have the ability, should we trust fully in God's grace, to be perfected in love, right? And that is such an endearing thing to me, that this is a thing for all people, that there is no just for this group or this group. He believed every single person who walks the earth is blanketed in God's grace, whether they recognize it or not. And I am just so drawn to that image and that belief. And I always tell people, I just want to love people and let them know how much Jesus loves them too. And I believe that's what, at the heart, we do in the United Methodist Church.
Well, okay, now that's going to lead me into a controversial question. You probably see where I'm going with this, Leann, and I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I think the world of the Methodist Church, and when I was a kid, these kind of questions never came up, but it's like it's been divisive in the Methodist Church, and that is the old LGBTQ question, and it's kind of been divided. Where is the First United Methodist Church standing on that as opposed to the other Methodist Church? What's the situation
so,
there?
I'm still learning the culture of this particular church. So I can speak denomination wise, right? So denominationally, as you know, that there has been a sort of division in the church. Another group broke off from the United Methodist Church, began their own denomination, and I will not speak for them because I cannot do that. Here in the United Methodist Church, in our denomination, we believe that all people are again covered by God's grace, right? And so we have made the decision, and it kind of, we have structures in place, right, in churches and in conferences and things like that. But we welcome people who are part of the LGBT community into the life of church. So that means they can be ordained to be pastors, because we believe that God calls all types of people into ministry, right? There was a time when they didn't even think women should be clergy. We are celebrating the 70th anniversary of ordained ministry for women in our denomination this year. So we believe that God calls all types of people into it, and it is not our job to hinder God's call in people's lives. And then it's up to each pastor, each church, whether or not they choose to perform weddings for same-gendered couples. So that is left to each church and each pastor to discern on their own whether that is a thing that they will do. Well,
and as a fellow Methodist said to me, actually at a Rotary meeting here a few weeks ago, Jesus washed the feet of everybody.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So can I ask you, you've done just a few sermons here. What have the topics of your last two sermons been about?
So I try, whenever I enter into a new church, I always think these first few weeks are a way where they can really get to hear how God has called me into ministry and sort of where I find my grounding in faith and God. So the very first week I was here, I preached on the story of Ruth, and particularly the first chapter of Ruth, when she tells her mother-in-law, Naomi, where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people. That has been a guiding verse for me for much of my adult life and even into my calling. I hear it as words to a prayer, of me saying them to God, of like, okay, God, where you lead me, I will go. And your people are my people. And I hear God saying that to me as well. So it's a reminder of God's ever present with me. I even have a tattoo of that verse on me. I have half of it. My mom has the other half. We have mother-daughter tattoos. And then this last Sunday, or just yesterday, I suppose it would be, I spoke about God creating humanity in God's image, because it is a core belief for me that I will never meet a person who is not crafted in the loving image of God. And so I try to treat everyone as though that image is shining back at me.
All right. So I've had a lot of questions of different pastors over the years, so I'm going to throw some questions at you. One of my favorite pastors here at the Methodist Church has been Reverend Bensinger, who was my pastor during my high school years. And we had a section in speech class on debate. So we talked about Adam and Eve as opposed to the theory of evolution. So I threw that at him, and how do you feel about that? The Bible talks about Adam and Eve, but yet there's this theory of evolution. How do you jive with that?
I am of the mindset that science and faith can cohabitate, right? That things can exist side by side, that we have, as scientists have done their own research and study, they have found evidence for certain things that maybe the Bible doesn't speak about. But we also know the Bible doesn't talk about the United States of America, and yet here we are, right? There was a whole world outside of that as well. So I approach a lot of things through the lens of curiosity, of what don't I know? What do I know? In the Wesleyan faith, in our tradition, in our faith tradition, we have what we call the Wesleyan quadrilateral, which is how we kind of approach things, where we always begin with Scripture. That is the foundation of our faith, is Scripture, right? Through as found in the Bible. But we also know that our understanding of Scripture is shaped by our experiences, like our life experiences, our traditions, be they faith traditions, family traditions, whatever tradition that you want to think about, and our reason. So what is logical in this, right? And so I tend to use those things as I approach all sorts of things. And I think the best thing we can ever do is approach life with curiosity. We see throughout Scripture, people, even Jesus himself, approaching things with a lens of curiosity. And so I find it a faithful thing to do.
How much of the Bible do you think is philosophical, and how much of it is fact-based?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that there's a lot of it that is poetry even, right? It is not only our book of faith and our a guiding part of our lives, but it is a piece of literature in some ways, where we know, like, the Psalms are books of poems. And we even have two creation stories in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. Yeah, so there's whole sorts of things, like the Bible did not just fall from the sky. It was handed down through storytelling over years and years and years. So, I think it's a good mix of all of those things, parables and proverbs and all of those things that kind of just help us shape and think deeper about life and the way things is.
Okay. Now, as a woman, I know a woman in particular, not going to give any names, but she says, the Bible, it was just written by a bunch of men. What do you say to that?
I mean,
then she follows that up by saying a lot of the stuff in the Bible puts women down.
I definitely hear where that is coming from, right? I remember when I was in seminary, when we got to, in my New Testament class, we were getting to the letters of Paul, the epistles. And that's where a lot of grounding for people saying that women should not preach, women should be silent, women should have their hair covered.
And they should be obedient to the men and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. Those are pulled from the letters of Paul, right? Mm-hmm. And so there was an audible groan in the class when our professor announced that we were getting ready to go into the letters of Paul, of all of us females that were like, ugh, Paul, like, here we go. We were ready to like geared up for a fight. And he pulled us back and he stopped us. And he said, I want us to remember that when we read the letters of Paul was writing those letters to specific communities under specific reasons. He's like, we're essentially reading other people's mail.
Oh, okay.
And he said that is not to say that there's not things that we can't pull from those letters that can be foundational for us. I think of 1 Corinthians 13:13 that talks about faith, hope, and love, right? And the strongest of these is love. And it's talking about communal love, love for community, love for our neighbors. And that's very foundational for us. But he said, some of those things were culturally relevant to specific people. And so sometimes we have to pull ourselves back and wonder, why was this written? Because we also hear Paul uphold women in other ways. Like he baptized Lydia in her house, which would name Lydia as the head of that household, and therefore the head of that church that was created out of her household. So if Paul was totally anti-women, he would have never baptized Lydia and her house. So I hear where we come from. I've had those feelings myself.
Sure.
But again, I think that's why it's so important to approach things with curiosity and the understanding that we don't know everything. Mm-hmm. So what don't we know, and how can we push ourselves to learn a little deeper and dig a little deeper and think beyond just the surface of what's on the page?
What is your favorite book in the Bible and why?
Oh, gosh. That's a tough question.
I'm asking you lots of hard questions,
aren't
I?
You
can tell I've got this very analytical mind.
That's okay.
And I got to tell you, I have been. I'm going to get to sleep in the next few days because I've got to wait till I told you my whole situation at WHO. I'm not going to go into it here publicly, but I wake up at 3:00 in the morning, and sometimes I wake up before the alarm goes off, and I just pray every morning. And so I think about these different things. So I've been thinking about questions I wanted to throw at you. So what is your favorite book in the Bible, and why is that?
I don't know if I can pick just one.
Okay, you can pick more than one. You get to do that.
I've already mentioned Ruth. I find her courage and her bravery within her story. I feel like Esther is always a very popular option amongst women, and I do greatly appreciate Esther's story too. But there's a quietness to Ruth's story, and just her saying yes. There's not a lot of big grand gestures. It's just her saying, okay, like, where are we going? Let's go. I will follow. And so I always have appreciated the book of Ruth. If I'm thinking beyond just obviously Gospels, Matthew has always been one of my favorite Gospels because Matthew was such a storyteller. And I love the stories. I love hearing deeper stories. And
can you give me specific?
Yeah. So I am thinking, the parables that Matthew tells, and Matthew 25 is always I know it's one of the most popular ones, but when it comes to the sheep and the goats, and this is Jesus saying, like, listen, like, this is how we get to the kingdom of heaven. It's by feeding the hungry, visiting the sick, inviting the stranger in. When you do that, you are caring for God. And so I love the powerful imagery of that. I have started to appreciate the Gospel of John more. John's a deeper thinker than, he uses a lot of imagery and illustrations. That's where we get bread of life and the I am statements in there. And so I've, over the years, become closer and closer to John. I had a great class in seminary about the Gospel of John that I think helped me draw to that too. An obscure book that a lot of people always go, when I say it, is the Book of Lamentations.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an obscure one.
It is.
Okay.
And I appreciate the book of Lamentations because I think we don't lament enough. I feel like in my experience...
When you say lament, you mean regretting?
Not regretting, but just feeling sorrow and grief and letting that be known. And regret can be in there too. But I think particularly with sorrow and grief, I feel like we tend to, a lot as Christians, try to sugarcoat grief, right? When someone that we love deeply passes away, how often do we hear they're in a better place?
Yeah. Well, you struck a chord with me because my sister passed away back in November.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
And Wesley Life Park Center, which is a sponsor of mine, has a great hospice program, but also a great grief support program too. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I even think about like the world around us, right? When we see suffering and we see pain, we tend to not want to dwell on it.
Oh yeah.
We want to make it better, put a shiny sticker on it, something. And
well, we've got enough drama in our lives.
Right.
We have our own problems that we don't want to deal with somebody else's problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we have somewhere, and I say we as in like the royal we, right? We have taught ourselves that it's not okay to tell God that we're upset. As though God is some fragile thing that can't take our upsetness. And so I appreciate the book of Lamentations, even the lamenting Psalms. King David could be such a drama king, right? Like, and I appreciate them though, because these are people who are feeling intense grief and intense suffering. And they're asking God, where are you? Have you abandoned us? And I think that's such a human and raw emotion. And I think about how we can be changed when we are willing to trust God with all of those raw emotions.
But I'm assuming the answer is no, God never abandons us.
No, God never abandons us. We may feel as though we are distant from God, but God is always present, and God lets that be known, right? There's a verse from the book of Joshua where it says, just be still and God will fight for you today. And so sometimes we feel that in the just being still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you, and I think I already know the answer to this, do you believe in heaven and hell, and why?
I do. I don't know if I don't necessarily always view hell as like this fiery pit, right? As media portrays it to be.
Right.
There is he's a very well-known United Methodist pastor. He preaches in Kansas City. And he's written several books. Adam Hamilton.
Okay.
Is his name. And I was reading an interview with him where someone asked him a very similar question. And he said when he thinks about hell, he thinks of it as a place that those who choose to be absent from God's love dwell, right? Like it is an absence where you do not feel God's love at all. Because there are people who don't want that. And so there has to be a place for them to dwell.
Are you talking about atheists?
No, not necessarily. I think that's an entirely different conversation that I'm not quite, ready to dive into today.
Okay.
But I view it as, like people who do profound works of evil.
I see.
Who have no love dwelling within them and don't want to be touched by any of that. Like there has to be a place for that, right?
For their soul.
Yeah. And so he speaks of that as like that's what he always views hell as that place that is devoid of that type of love. Whereas heaven is this place that is full of God's love, where it is overwhelming of God's love. And I always, we talk in the Lord's Prayer, we pray on earth as it is in heaven, that heaven will be brought to the here and now, here and not yet, right? We are longing for those days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of projects do you hope that the United Methodist Church will be working on other than, enhancing the faith of the parishioners here and that kind of thing. I know, that the church has been involved in food drives and stuff because you were talking about feeding the hungry. I know Jesus had said that, if you have fed the hungry, the starving, you have fed me. If you've clothed the naked, that kind of stuff. And there have been all kinds of different things that the Methodist Church has done. In fact, I did a podcast with Captain Tim of the Salvation Army not long ago, and the Salvation Army is derivative of the Methodist Church also. So can you tell us maybe what some things you would like to be doing here in the Methodist Church in the future?
I am, like I said, still settling in. I actually spent some time. There's a group who meets on Monday afternoons who weave mats that get distributed to like with Midwest Mission and some other organizations who give them to people who are unhoused. They have somewhere safe to sleep on.
I see. Okay.
Or they might use them in shelters and things like that. And
homeless folks.
Yeah. So I was downstairs helping cut plastic bags. They were teaching me how to do that today. That was a new skill for me.
Yeah.
So, still learning some of the missions that they're already doing. We've had some conversations about, there are folks who cannot make it to church on Sunday morning for whatever reason, right, wrong, indifferent. They just aren't able to make it on a Sunday morning because we know society has a lot of things that happen all of the time. And there are some folks who just aren't sure they want to step into a building on a Sunday morning for whatever reason.
In my case, I hate to cop out,
That's okay.
but I watch online because I get up, like I say, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy for me to just get on call me lazy, get on my laptop and just watch and watch the sermons. And I know also for the First United Methodist Church too, if you don't watch it live, you can watch the replay also. So that's a good thing too.
Yes. And they do broadcast on one of the radio stations that I do not have written down.
Yes.
It's
I think it's the Knoxville Pella radio station. Okay. Anyway, I don't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. But so there's been some conversation about what would it look like to create some other type of service that's maybe more casual, more low key, more not feeling so formally churchy, that might draw people in who do want to be faithful or have questions about faith, where they can feel like this is a place that can be for them too. Church isn't always happening just on Sunday mornings.
Right.
Church can happen anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's a conversation we've just been kind of tipping our toes into. So I'm excited to see where those conversations lead deeper too.
If people want to contact you, how can they do that, Leann?
So they can reach out through the church. We have a Facebook page. They can follow us at First United Methodist Church in Newton on our Facebook page. And we also have a website that they can go to as well. We're easily accessible.
You betcha. Okay, well, thanks for talking with us. This has gone a little longer than we normally do, but lots of good question and answer between the two of us, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. And boy, you certainly have blazed quite a path in your spiritual life, and started out teaching, and it just sounds like the Lord has led you to good old Newton, Iowa 50208, and so I'm looking forward to seeing some of your sermons and your teachings online and maybe even in person sometime. I think I've told you that, before my sister passed, I used to go to some of the services at Wesley Life Park Center. Church services here at 8:45 on Sundays, and then 10 o'clock at Park Center also?
That is correct. Yep.
Our interview guest has been Leann Robine, who is the new pastor at the First United Methodist Church in downtown Newton, and it's the big church. There's also St. Luke's United Methodist Church on the east side of Newton too, but this is the church with the new gold dome that they just replaced, and it's looking good. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of Out and About with Jamie Grout. Other fine sponsors of this podcast include Westside Java Coffee Bar. Stop on in there, enjoy your lattes, your hot chocolate, your cookies, whatever, at Westside Java Coffee Bar, or use their drive-thru in the alley. Made Right Sandwich Shop in downtown Newton. Order ahead at 792-4166 or breakfast 7 days a week at Made Right in Newton. Lynette Baker, Halo Branded Solutions, along with Jersey Freeze in Monroe. Until next time, out is out. See ya.